to open the case for the second half of the opposition team. We're glad to give the floor to Georgia.
Thank you very much, Robert. I'm definitely not an advanced physics student, not a student at all, actually. But it's my honor to stand here to prove to you that you should vote for the opposition. Not only for the reasons you have heard, but for the most important reasons, which will be basically the philosophy of the human development. It kind of touches all that we've heard before, but it's, I guess, a broader view. So I'll first start with what happened before this. Let's start with economy and politics issue, because they are very, very, very close and tight. We do believe that in some cases, in some statistics, in certain studies, one nuclear power plant can produce cheaper energy. But even if this is so, these studies do not take into account the whole cycle of nuclear energy, nuclear energetics, which start with mines, which start in careers when they try to find this fuel, and then which ends in places like Krasnoyarsk and other plants when this is stored without any further use. And of course we heard this point about technologies may advance, but there are technologies we don't have to advance mostly, and those are wind technologies. I also would like to state that investments, you don't really need too much when it comes to the wind power stations, for the reason that basically the idea is pretty simple, and you don't have to spend your money on science, which, by the way, is not a toy and not an aim itself, so you shouldn't risk the whole humanity for the sake of that. Secondly, you don't have to risk to invest into the whole cycle, which is much shorter and much cheaper, and that's a fact in case of wind stations. But also, sir, I believe that, no thank you, that yes, we don't really have winds everywhere. We don't have uranium everywhere. We don't have oil everywhere. So the idea here is that we don't have everything everywhere. That's why we exchange resources, and that's how the world economy works. And yes, our colleagues have stated that this often works as an instrument of political pressure. But how does it work right now? Oh, I have a power plant. Please don't bomb me, because otherwise something can go wrong. Or I'm developing a power plant, but possibly I'm developing a a military plant which can help me have nuclear weapons, which, sir, are not good for you if you attack me. No, thank you. And here, sir, we see that this technology is totally 100% innocent pacifist. So this cannot be used as political pressure. No, thank you. And so I've shown you that we have got lots of expenses, additional expenses, which are not taken into account in the usual studies regarding the nuclear energy. Yes, sir?
This debate is not about who best can use the data. So
thank you. I see.
Main principles.
Yeah, main principles of your technology are usually not so safe, but when we have technology 100% safe, we'd better choose that one. And now security. By the way, security is also a very important economical issue. Why? Because we spend millions and millions of dollars, for example, in Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, just to recover after Chernobyl. Now, you're telling me Chernobyl is just a unique example. Oh no, sir. We got lots and lots of, no thank you, lots and lots of accidents in Russia. For example, in Krasnoyarsk 56, or if I'm not mistaken with the number of the object, no thank you, and with other plants. But what's more important, yes, this risk is pretty low and it gets lower and lower with the advance of technology. But firstly, the risk still exists and it all works. Secondly, on the idea of if something goes wrong, well, nothing can possibly go wrong in case of the windmills, which is more important. Because, no thank you, even if you have a political meeting under those windmills and they all crash, maximum is like 10,000 of people. This is a grotesque joke, sir. But we know about hundreds of people who are damaged by Chernobyl. And now, sir, I would also like, yeah, please.
And what if there is a sudden stoppage of this wind in some region?
Thank
you
you.
won't be able to exchange in this case.
Yes, in this case, we're not stating that this is the first unique kind of source, but secondly, what's more important, this is the technology that has never been given a chance to develop, unlike the nuclear energy. This technology is about 20, 30 maximum years old, unlike the nuclear power stations. So I believe that here there is more of a possibility of getting it more stable, and the first opposition has shown this to you. And now, sir, this is the most important thing. The most crucial part here is the rising demand we heard from the government. And this is what we heard from the second government as a suggested extension, and from the second speaker of the first government. Now, I got a good answer for you. When we first started exploring oil, we thought it was going to be eternal and took that for granted. When we take every resource, we often realize that it is coming to its end even earlier than we have reached what we have now. So most important thing is don't be addicted to things that end, as I pointed in my point of information. While you can use, rationally use, things that you could possibly have for granted forever, like the wind. And for all those reasons, sir, I beg you to oppose.
Thank you very much. And now